Support for this show, Politics Done Right, comes from politicsdoneright.com, publishers of How to Make America Utopia, Take Away the Economy from Those Who Rigged It, As I See It, Class Warfare, The Only Resort to Right-Wing Doom, It's Worth It, How to Talk to Your Right-Wing Relatives, Friends, and Neighbors, and other books written by Egberto, Willies. Welcome to Politics Done Right. My name is Egberto Willies, your host. Good morning, Houston. Good morning, Harris County. Good morning to the great state of Texas. Good morning to Northeast Texas, Southeast Texas, Northwest Louisiana, Southwest Louisiana, and to every nook and cranny where our 100,000 watt signal permeates into the nooks and crannies, to those magical boxes formerly known as radios, now called Howard. Let's call it the Howard Reynolds boxes. Anyway, folks, we're going to have a great show for you today. I'm sure by now everybody saw the debate. Yeah, the debate. We're going to talk about that some. We're going to talk about a whole lot of other things, maybe because, you know, this is your show. You call in and you give it directions. Anyway, before we end, without any further ado, let's go to our buddies or friends, the geniuses en el estudio, in the studio. Good morning, geniuses.
And good morning to you, Egberto, and all the folks in Hattiesburg, Mississippi. Why the heck not? Yeah, I watched the debate last night. I stayed with it for about an hour and 40 minutes. Then I started to get tired. I thought, I get up at 4 o'clock in the morning, so it's time to go to bed. I thought I did not catch the demise of public schools comment. That must have come later on. But I did hear, and I thought they did a very respectful job and even agreed with each other on some of the things that need to be done. It was a far different debate than the presidential debate. I think this one was much more mild-mannered. I think they both did a good job. I can't say a winner or loser because I liked them both. I was not impressed with JD Vance, especially before the debate, but actually he made some sense. However, he's still a salesman for Donald Trump, which is not going to be, a good thing. I was sitting there thinking, okay, why doesn't Vance be vice president and the other guy, why doesn't he become president? Because I like both of them. And they did a very good job and respectful of each other, which is what I like. And it was actually a debate, not a sales show. So I thought they both did very well. Walz could become the president and Vance could become the vice president if he can contain himself. And I think a lot of the rhetoric that we're hearing about him, most of it's true. Some of it isn't. As you know, in the news media, they always a little here, a little there. But I thought they both did a very good job, a very respectful job of each other. There was none of this nonsense of, oh, she's so bad and he's so bad and this, that, and the other. There was none of that. So I really kind of enjoyed watching the two go at it. It was good.
Jack, based on the polls, the people kind of agree with you that they were both mild-mannered. In fact, each of their favorability ratings went up. But we'll talk about that after Jack.
Okay.
Good morning, Egberto.
Buenos días, mi hermano. ¿Cómo estás?
Hey, not much. Okay, JD Vance. Open mouth, insert foot. This man is a mouthpiece for the extreme right, parroting the right's disinformation rhetoric campaign against the people. Yeah, you and me. To say that public education is teaching socialism, I guess he can't admit that he uses social infrastructure every day. He turns on his computer when he takes his shower, the mud districts, when he drives on public roads. He's confusing socialism with social programs. He wants to get rid of social programs like public schools for our children in libraries. Excuse me. JD Vance is a yes man. I guess Trump picked his running mate to be dumb as a box of rocks, which just may be smarter than he.
Yeah, good one. Let me tell you, from starting with the debate, Jack Howard. What was interesting is, like Howard was talking about, it was so pleasant to see people talk civilly, right? And the thing about it is, when you go ahead.
Oh, I would say yes. I mean, I agree. It was good to see politicians be civil to each other. I mean,
right.
They're supposed to have one cause, and that's serving the country.
The people,
and the country
right.
is us. So it seemed like they were both on cue on that one.
Right. And you could see they were, that was the goal of the debate. A lot of people got on, and I was so, why didn't you answer it this way, Walz? Why didn't you answer it this way, Walz? And I realized that when they sent him out there, this guy's a very smart dude. Walz he likes to play that folksy kind of guy, but every now and then within that debate, his intellect really spread out in the way he thought, right? Now, Vance was polished as hell. Vance looks like somebody who goes on debate courses. In other words, he never has to answer a question, or rather, no question that you gave him did he answer. I mean, if you take a listen of everything, he bloviated around each answer. But the thing about it is it sounded good, it felt good, and it looked good. You don't get up 11 points in favorability ratings in one night, even though Walz went up I think Vance went up by 11 points, even though he's still underwater. And Walz went up by 13 points. They really loved the way the folksy way of the guys. So they both accomplished their mission. The problem is when you're an activist, myself, etc., you can't just look at the platitudes and say, oh, wow, that sounded nice. Because, behind all those platitudes, what's really important is policy. And there are many times that I wanted Walz to respond with certain things. And I'm not even talking about the cats and eating dogs and all that kind of stuff, but repercussions of doing certain things. Like, I thought that would have had a major effect. But before I get into that, what was great that I saw, and it's something that I believe in after being with the Coffee Party and Living Room Conversations and all these other organizations, is that if you are nice, or if you are respectful, usually that sort of stuff comes back in return. Vance didn't, not once did Walz really try to ding Vance. So Vance couldn't find a real heavy opening to ding Walz. And it just then made it that you're going to sit down and likely just talk about the things that you can actually talk about. And that's what happened in the debate. We didn't hear anything about the things that the right wing likes to bring out on Walz, like the military career and what this other person said. You didn't hear about the dogs and the cats. You didn't hear about any other thing other than when these guys asked about policy. Now the answer is, how did you respond to the policy questions? And that's where we got the niceties out of Vance. But guess what? There were absolutely no answers. When they asked about how do you handle the healthcare and pre-existing conditions, he goes around in circles. He couldn't answer that. When they asked him about school, or the part that Brother Jack had to say, he goes and he just fortuitously used the word socialism. When they asked him about the Middle East, he didn't really have an answer, just went around in circle. And that was his behavior right through, right? Now, when they talked to Walz was not only able to say, this is how we'll help kids. He was able to say, this is how we help kids because you know what? We did it in Minnesota. This is how we help business. You know why? You know how I know that? We did it in Minnesota, and Minnesota is rated number 3 for businesses. all these things got done within that debate because they were niceties. Now, the question is how people understood what they heard. I thought, based on how good and polished Vance was, I thought when they did the polling as far as who won the debate, that Vance was going to look. I said specifically from a substantive point of view, Walz won the debate running away based on policy and saying what I will do on policy. There's not one thing you could tell me that JD Vance said they would actually get done or do for middle class America. And I thought most people, because of how they listen to debates, they were going to say, oh, he looked good. Vance looked good doing what he did. And it was going to be a runaway victory for Vance. It turned out being in the CNN polls where they had people that were watching the debate. Vance came out 51-49 as far as who won the debate. But the magical thing is underneath the tabs of that polling. They asked, who would be better for you, middle class, etc.? And Walz came out ahead on those kinds of questions, which says a magical thing. America is starting to discriminate between, stylistically speaking, that guy was a good performer, but the one who is better for me is Walz. And that those two numbers blew me away last night. I stayed up to waiting on those numbers. And I'm like, oh my God, America got it. Yeah. The debate was pretty even with a slight tilt in stylistic points to Vance. But as far as what's going to help me, it is Walz. That bifurcation really blew me. I want to say some more things, but Donald's is on the line. And if my good old brother Maga is on the line, I got to talk to Donald. Come on in, Donald.
Hey, good morning, Egberto. Yes, it was a hooey show.
Yeah.
Let's take a look at this from the perspective that there was 5 people on that stage.
Mm-hmm.
You have Biden, Harris, Trump, Walz, and JD Vance.
Yeah.
2 of them are career politicians that are still trying to stay in the political game. That's why they were the way they were last night. Trump doesn't care. He's trying to stay out of jail. Biden's already out. And then Kamala, she can't go any higher, and she's pretty much at retirement age. If she doesn't get to presidency, then she's done with it. But you've got to look at all of it and see those 2 guys sit there and said they could not do anything with the home market, all this other stuff. Yeah, they can. They're Senate and Congress. They sit there and bald-faced lied to you and said we can't do anything. Everybody complains about Trump not paying taxes. Well, 4 out of the 5 have the opportunity. They were in the Senate. They were in the Congress. They've had the opportunities. They just don't want it because they get benefits off the same tax breaks, the same tax codes, and the same laws that they're up there passing benefits them as well as it does the uber and ultra rich. So what do you got to say on that one?
Well, let me just say that, you make an important point, right? That Kamala was in the Senate. JD Vance was in the Senate. Well, Kamala is vice president now. So anything you ask her about what she's doing now as vice president, we have to remember what everybody has always known about the vice presidency before Kamala decided to run. And that was the vice president doesn't matter. The vice president has no say, and everything is generally done by the president. Even though we know the Cheney-Bush relationship, and we know the Harris-Biden relationship, and we also know the Clinton and his vice president relationship. There are certain vice presidents that have more influence than others. Truman had no influence. So, it all depends. Did Kamala have a lot of influence with Biden? I would actually say absolutely not. Biden is a patriarch, an old style patriarch. He's a nice guy. and he fulfills his promises. But if you take a look at how he has dealt with Netanyahu, he has one way of being, and that's what he does. That's who he is. If you take a look at the policies that he passed, that's who he is. Kamala is going to have, he says, oh, she's right there in the room with me. Exactly. She's in the room with you, but she's not going to change whatever it is you want to do. So I'm not going to hold Kamala accountable for anything as vice president. I will hold Kamala accountable for things that she does when she was senator, just as I hold JD Vance accountable when he was senator. And the statement that you made was, what did they do about taxes? Well, in the case of Kamala, when it came to passing bills that would have attempted to mitigate these kinds of tax loopholes, she was there. JD was not. So that is a factual answer to your statement, my brother.
They can start out with good intentions, but that's what the road to hell is paved with.
Very true.
By the time they get in there, they are so manipulated, and they find out how to look at Pelosi. I mean, that's the power. You can see where the power is, and until we get them all out, clean the slate, stop career politicians, you can't be in there 20, 30 years. You can go in there and serve a term, and you can do what's best for the people, not what's best for the corporations and all the others. So I would
Donald. Let me stop you there a second. Two things I want to challenge. I want to challenge the stuff about term limits, which is what you brought up. I mean, a lot of people are for term limits. A lot of my good friends are for term limits. I am completely against term limits because I think it's an anti-democratic process. Okay. I am for listen to you talk. You're a smart dude. Okay. And you talk, when you talk about Nancy Pelosi, I think she was the most effective speaker. But, when Nancy comes out and says everybody owns stocks and doesn't want to have control on the politicians who have stocks and all of that, I think she's crazy, because at that point she misses the boat. And I think that right there should give her a progressive challenger in San Francisco. So, what I want myself, and I think you should want, is an educated population, which I don't think is what we have, politically educated population. I want people to understand the power that they have. Like, the power you have. I want people to know the power that they have, and I want people to understand civics. I want people to understand how our government works, because I have faith that a smart person who understands how our government works will choose the right people, and anybody that gets out of line would be done appropriately. But that also requires for us to understand how our economic system works, so that the corporations can't put out those ads to fool you into voting against your own interests. I don't see any differences between what most Americans want. I see differences in how they are programmed in their minds. Continue, Donald, before I jump to Harry.
Okay, why can't we put on propositions or agendas or whatever that we vote for in each state that actually affect our government? Yes, we do put up Congress people, we do put up senators, but just put the abortion on the ballot to see what the majority of the people say.
We did.
Put term limits on the ballot in each state. No, each state, individual, as you vote.
So, yeah, we did, Donald. Kansas, they put it on the vote. Red state, Kansas, 63%, I think it's what said, we want to allow a woman her right to choose. It's up on the ballot in Florida. We put it on the ballot in every single state that we put it up on the ballot. It's north of 58% of what people want. The thing about it is this, right? The people in every state, they're voting to support a woman's right to choose. But guess what, Donald? I don't even think that is something that should be up for a vote. You know what the first 10 amendments of the Constitution are?
Oh, yeah. But this is politics. That's where we get it.
No. Wait. Donald, I want to go somewhere. I'm going somewhere with you. I promise. I'm going somewhere with you. I promise you. do you know what the 10 first amendments to the Constitution is called? The Bill of Rights. And what the Bill of Rights is, the Bill of Rights prevents the majority from being able to pass any laws against the minority or majority, because it's called an inalienable right. I cannot pass a law that stops you from voting. I cannot pass a law that takes away your gun. I cannot pass a law that takes away your free speech. Those are inalienable rights. I don't think we should be able to pass a law that takes away a woman's right to her body. That should be a constitutional right that the majority cannot take away from you. So yeah, we're voting in every state as you ask, but I don't even think it's something that we should have allowed to do. I think there should have been an amendment that says a woman has an inalienable right to her own body. But we'll talk about that another time, Donald. I need to go to some other calls as usual.
So it's real quick.
Yes.
That's why you can get a vasectomy and you get a tubulectomy and nobody says a damn thing. It's the same.
Thank you. There you go.
And
there you go.
Office with your doctor is your business. All right. Later.
Thank you. Thank you, brother. You have a peaceful day, my dear brother. Harry, come on in, sir.
Good morning, Jack. Good morning, Howard. Hola, ¿cómo estás? ¿Qué pasó? El profesor Egberto Willies.
Todo está bien, mi hermano. Todo está bien. Talk to me, my brother.
Muy bien. Well, I listened to the debate on NPR. I thought, as you were telling Howard and Jack earlier, that JD Vance, and I listened to the analyst, he did have style, but Tim Walz had more substance. I felt that he answered all the questions correctly that the moderator put out there about Iran and Israel and Hamas and Hezbollah, and then about abortion and about the economy and about the border. And I thought that JD Vance too much kept going back to immigration and about the undocumented workers bringing a lot of fentanyl. And then I didn't like that, as the moderator pointed out, the Haitians that work in Springfield are here legally. And he's up here continuing to spread those false narratives that they are illegal immigrants and they're not here legally. And then he went on talking about why we can't have, with the Haitians, we can't have affordable housing because these undocumented people are undercutting the economy for Americans, so they can't get affordable housing. And I like how Tim Walz nailed him on that when he said, no, it is Wall Street, it's like BlackRock, these brokerage firms. They're the ones bidding up the prices and why we can't have affordable housing. And then,
hey, Harry, can I stop you? Harry, I want to stop you a second because you nailed something that's important. You said something that's important that I wish he had said more forcefully. Right now, they're buying up houses. These investment firms, and they're buying up a lot of houses and then renting them out, and that is causing home inflation as well, right? He said it, but I don't. But you follow these things from listening to our programs, etc. But most Americans don't. And I wish he was more explicit about that, because I think that would have neutralized the fear of the immigrant coming into your community and causing the prices to rise. But anyway, continue, brother. That was a very good point.
Oh, exactly. And then he did not answer the questions on January 6th. And then the question I asked you about when I read Donald Trump's economic policy on the federal lands, JD Vance just danced around that and really didn't answer what they're going to do as far as how they're going to build on those federal lands. He just kept going. He kept bringing immigration into it. He kept blaming Kamala Harris for inflation.
And let me stop you there one more time. I want to stop you there one more time, because when they used, it was the federal lands and oil, they asked the question about how are you going to take care of the kids? And he said, there are two ways to do it. One is tariffs, and the other way is energy, drilling and making sure we're energy independent. And while Walz in passing said we are drilling and producing more energy than ever, and also He didn't come out there and say we are energy independent. We produce all that we need, even though we want to do more green energy. I don't think he hit him hard to point out that, wait a minute, when you say drill, baby, drill, it makes no sense because already we're producing more than we're using. So how can that then say drill, baby, drill to solve our energy problem? I mean, there were a lot of missed opportunities that I thought, but again, everything was civil. Harry, give me a closer. I got to go to Miss Bowie.
Okay, I'll just say that I hope this does help Kamala Harris and that she gets a bump out of this. But my position on this, I think they're both on the wrong side of this Israel, Gaza, Iran thing, and that's why I'm voting third party and sticking with Dr. West because he's about doing the right thing.
Have a wonderful day, my brother. Take care. All right, let's go to Miss Bowie. Come on in. How you doing, my dear sister?
Good morning. Good morning. Good morning, Houston. Good morning, Egberto. How are you?
I'm doing fine. What are your thoughts, my sis?
So, I wanted to agree with Donald about terms. I think, we need terms because if we don't give them terms with the ability to reapply, that way they can come in, do their job. If they do a good job, then we say, you know what? When he was in here for that short amount of time, or the 2 years, or the 4 years, he got the job done. Let's put him back in. But all of this extra 30, 40, 50 years, we don't need none of that. That's why we have decades and decades of problems and nothing ever gets solved. And then I'm going to actually agree again with the other sister that calls. In the morning, we can't get in the mud with y'all. We got kids we need to do to get to school, and we got tea and all these things. Breakfast we need to feed. I forgot my thought. But go ahead. I'm still doing my investigation, but break check, you are on the line today. I just wanted to officially say that. All right, you in hot water, okay? But I'm gonna call you back at 3 o'clock hour. But yes, Donald, right. Thank you. Term limits, you need to have it. Bye.
Thank you, Miss Bowie. Thank you. I can't agree with my sister. Love her to death, but I can't agree with her. I think she just kind of agreed with me when she said, if they do a good job, we put them back in. And that's what called elections. But again, you have to have a community that is up to speed, educated, not overworked. Because I'll tell you something else. A lot of what happens here is that the American population is working so hard. We are some of the hardest working people on the planet. And you come home, a lot of times you don't want to have to figure things out. So when you're fed information from your source of information, you just accept it. But anyway, that's my thing. Johnny, come on in, my dear brother from another mother.
In a previous time, several generations ago, people who listened to the debate between Kennedy and Nixon on the radio versus watching it on TV came away with two different impressions. We were taught historically. And so if you watched the debate like I did, as opposed to listening to it, you would have a more favorable view of both of these individuals, especially of Walz. Whereas if you watched it, you would take note that while JD Vance seemed to come across more relaxed, because he's a Republican and they are used to lying, so they don't sweat. Whereas Walz, even though he didn't really mess up, except maybe at the beginning a little bit, he was a little bit nervous, he was staring straight at his debate partner. So when the camera's looking straight on, he's looking like he's angry. And I would have advised him, I would have practiced him in their debate practice not to look at his opponent the way he did so often. But the thing that really gets me is CBS, the moderators, when they let the people know that they were coming up in the next hour with the debate. One of the things that they said was that, Mr. Walz is going to have to answer for his being a little bit too liberal. And I thought, WTF. And I was waiting for something complimentary for JD Vance. And in that space, they said nothing to challenge JD Vance's thing. as a Republican. How come JD Vance doesn't have to apologize for being Republican or have to apologize for choosing a running mate that's a lifelong con man and career criminal? But Walz has to explain why he might be a little bit too liberal. Give me a break.
You know what is interesting? What is interesting, John, is that I think one of the most important things that if the moderator is going to do something like that is to say Vance is going to have to explain after when he said Donald Trump's failed policies were failed policies in 2020, after he said Donald Trump was an American Hitler, after he said all those things. He's going to have to explain how do you become a running mate of that person. And they kind of touched on it when they asked him about the Hitler comment, but there were so many other comments out there that really would have made a Trump Vance ticket not a real thing, because again, Vance really had disdain for Trump. Let me tell you what I have, guys. I have the dossier. I haven't put anything on air again because I understand the dossier was actually lifted from the computer, the Trump Vance computer system. For journalistically, I haven't put it on air. I haven't put it on my website or anything like that. But I can just say, in going through that stuff, people know this thing because the way the dossier was put together, it was put together interviewing a whole lot of people. So it's all out there in the public domain already, and it just put it into one place, right? I am just surprised that 90% of what's in of the things that's in there about JD Vance hasn't seen the light of day. Just surprised. Continue, Johnny.
And JD Vance was given a pass at least twice that I can recall. He was allowed not to answer two different questions, which I can't remember off the top of my head what they were, but they were at least one of them were substantial, and they had the excuse of having to move on to the next question. So he gets a pass right there. But here's my idea: how about this is something that Donald gave me an idea about earlier in his conversation with you. How about, you know how CEOs in the private sector, in the real world of competition, how they get these bonuses and performance packages? They get performance pay if they squeeze every nickel out of the company and screw over the workers, and they get rewarded for that. How about we penalize politicians at the federal level who, let's say, only accomplish 20% of their campaign promises. And if they deliver at least 65% of their campaign promises, we increase their retirement package a little bit. Like a little bit of a sweetener, give them an incentive. But at the same time, no corporate dark or PAC money, because we're going to have forensic accountants watching your every move. If you're a federal officer, that's the new reality in my world.
You know what is interesting, Johnny? There's actually, there's a lot of merit to something that you just said. That while you're saying it, I'm like, how the hell would that work? But if you go ahead and say certain things would be based on campaign promises fulfilled, I know the politician doesn't have full control of fulfilling campaign promises, but what it would do, it would make people make less false campaign promises to get elected, right? So it would talk about consequences having consequences, right? So it's probably not a far-fetched idea at all. Welcome aboard, Paul Fleming Sr. from Atlanta, Georgia, and Eric Case from Atascocita. Yeah, continue, Johnny.
One final thought. You know how we could put that on steroids? You don't just put it on the onus of just the president and or vice president. You put it on all of the people connected with them that they have to work with daily, people in Congress. In other words, like in the U.S. military, the Marines have the buddy-buddy system where you all sink or swim together. It's the same thing. You have an incentive to help your buddy so you stay alive and he stays alive and helps keep you alive. Well, let's do the same thing for their financial integrity. If they want to have a good retirement package, they all have to work together across the
There you go. Thank you, brother. Johnny, got to go. Thank you very much, my brother.
Goodbye.
Have a great rest of your day. Let's go to Brother Augie. And by the way,
Good
folks, the
morning.
telephone number is 713-526-5738. Come on in, Augie.
Yeah, good morning. Yeah, JD Vance, he's only been in office for 2 years, and I don't think he really knows what's going on. I don't think he knows how the government works. If you watch PBS before the debate, it told you what the office of vice president does. Not much. And JD Vance was trying to hold Kamala responsible for not doing anything as the vice president. Well, the vice president doesn't do much. It's the president and Congress that pushes the acts, not the vice president. And the vice president, it didn't have much to do until like Nixon when he got kicked out. And then the vice president had to be take over for him, and then they had to find another vice president to take over Gerald Ford's spot. But anyway, one thing about last night that J.D. Vance showed to us, he doesn't like to be fact-checked for what he says. And he got on him, hey, man, you're fact-checking me. And that's what Trump supporters do whenever I talk with them. None of them 100% like to be fact-checked. They don't like the facts or truth. Nobody brought out that when Trump was president, he didn't do anything. As far as health care, there was one time when he's being interviewed, and he's got these papers in his hand. And he says, I got a plan here to replace the Affordable Care Act. And when a cameraman zoomed up on his papers, the papers were blank. And he said, I got it right here. It wasn't concepts that he said now. He said back then when he was president, he said, I got a plan right here in my hands. He had nothing. It was all blank. And
there's one thing. Let me interrupt you a second, Augie, because another part of the debate, when JD Vance had the gall to say that Donald Trump pretty much saved Obamacare. Donald Trump actually, at that point, when we talk about stylistics and imagery and that sort of stuff, that at that point, I thought that Walz should have turned around, look at the moderator, and start to giggle, sort of the things that we saw Kamala do in her interview. I can't believe this guy actually said that after trying to kill the thing. Anyway, sorry, Andrew. Go ahead, my bro.
That's okay. And like Johnny said a while ago, if Walz would have looked at the camera instead of looking sideways and when his eyes got big with the stuff that J.D. Vance said, like you said, I think it would have gone a lot better for Walz, as appearance-wise, because he's on TV. Yeah. But anyway.
But it was. I tell you what, we are political junkies, and we're giving Walz a hard time. And I really wanted to see what the average person who listened and watched. And the average person who listened and watched Augie are not that tough on Walz as we are, because what they saw was a civil debate. And what they saw is that and they also saw that Walz was more substantive in the numbers that you see, not the who won or lost the debate. It came out pretty even. But in the numbers that you see, what it turns out to be is that people realize that the person who really had solutions for them was the Walz, the Harris Walz ticket, which I found surprising, but I was also, thankful that they saw through the junk. I got to go to Moses, Augie, so give me a closer.
Yeah, but I was surprised they had Dora O'Donnell there because she doesn't really know much what's going on. If you know about her, at the beginning when they showed her, she was looking at this piece of paper. That piece of paper had questions because that's the only way she knows. She can't think of the top off her head because she's really not aware of what's going on. But anyway, she was good about keeping time and trying to keep them to the 2 minutes. And but anyway, at the end, it was very good. The wives came on and then they shook hands. JD,
right,
his wife Walz, and Walz introduced his wife to JD. But yeah, it was sort of civil. But like I said, they don't like to be fact checked. They don't like truth.
Yeah. Oh no, because fact checking is the enemy for them. But anyway, thank you, Augie. Let's go to Sister Moses.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, brother. Moses, come on in.
Buenos días, hijitos.
Buenos días, con mi corazón. Buenos días, ¿cómo estás?
Muy bien, ¿y tú?
Muy bien, muy bien. Talk to me, sis. Talk to me.
Okay. In the place of a teacher, this is my summary, because Mr. Walz opened the classroom to the whole nation. Mr. Walz redirected Mr. Vance's attention to the blackboard in Minnesota to see the solution to the problems of the nation. And there is a word that goes, and the nation heard it, they learned, and there is a word that goes, and your eyes will see your teacher, and your ears will hear a word behind you saying, this is the way. Follow it.
Moses, first of all, I want to thank you for saying that. And let me tell you why. Because I love the way you put that. He opened the classroom. Because, a lot of people are just finding out about Walz now, right? But I wrote several blogs about Walz years ago when Walz had a 1-vote majority in his Congress. Hear me out. A 1-vote majority in his Congress, and all those progressive bills that make Minnesota a better state for business, a better state for workers, a better state for all these things. All these bills were passed with a 1-vote majority. Okay. And I'm sitting down there and I'm saying, this guy this guy is an effective governor that cares about people and has no disdain for business. And when he came out and he said, I am not just talking about this. This is what we did in Minnesota. And these are the results of what we did in Minnesota. Our people have health care. Our kids are not going hungry. And there is great employment. All these things have been successful in Minnesota. If don't knock these programs, we can do this for all of America. And that part of his debating, I think is why he was so much over water with the polls. In other words, the style, JD Vance definitely won. But when it comes to substance, and I was so happy to see that the people saw that. I like the way you put it, Moses. Yeah. He opened the classroom.
Let me tell you, as a teacher, I saw what Mr. Walz do. He took Mr. Vance as a lesson, and he saw him as one of his students who still did not get the concept. And he took all of the parts of instruction, and he said, now this is how I am going to bring my students through to take away the false notions from him and to let him see. And he gave him the concrete part to say, hey, look over there. Do you see this? Do you see that? And do you see that? And it washed away all of the, well, Kamala Harris this coming. He said, Sonny boy, hold your thing.
Moses,
Kamala Harris, you need help.
Moses, Moses, I want to bring. Go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Let me say this. In the place of the teacher, my heart is filled, and I thank Mr. Walz for never forgetting, once a teacher, always a teacher. You always reach out. Even now that I am retired, I always sometimes find people who I still have to teach a lesson and bring in all of the acumens of teaching to bring them to that understanding.
First of all, I thank you for having been a teacher. Anybody who watches my program know that I revere teachers. Back in Panama, we call it la licenciada or licenciado. And when we see them in a grocery store or a store or whatever, we stand almost at attention. That's respect and revere we will learn to have for teachers back in the country where I'm originally from. And it gives me disdain to be watching the way we look at teachers a certain way, but stockbrokers with as if these people are doing great things. You, the teachers, are the ones that matter. I want to add something here because our brother from Atlanta, Paul Fleming, is on the chat, and he brings up something very important. He said, JD Vance says not to trust. This is something that Walz pointed out. JD Vance says not to trust the experts. JD Vance says not to trust the scientists. I'll trust the experts and the scientists over JD Vance. Well, and JD Vance's response was, let's trust our cult leader. After all, he was correct. The answer to that is false. Remember, Donald Trump's GDP was actually worse than President Carter's GDP. And President Carter's GDP wasn't actually bad at all. And his employment, Carter had much more employment than Donald Trump and in one term. And Carter also had a larger GDP than Donald Trump. Let's just get that clear. Another thing that Paul Fleming said in the chat is, he said, leave it up to the states. Be for real. People, when we leave certain things up to the states, humanity is humanity irrespective of what state you're in. There are certain things that should not be left up to the states. Continue, Moses, and I got to jump to Bard.
Well, I'll say finally, America, you have a teacher as an assistant to your president. And we all know we came from the hands of good teachers. Listen to the teacher and learn.
Thank you. You have a wonderful rest of your day, sis. Let's go to Brother Bard. Come on in, Brother Bard.
Yes, good morning. Moses, if I was in your class, I would drop out immediately. If you want to know who Walz is, watch on YouTube, The Fall of Minneapolis. He let that city burn to the ground. There's a lot of stuff in his background. There was a train load of counterfeit money that came from China, came into Minneapolis that they caught. And I think this ties into George Floyd. You can look it up. But this guy's been to China over 30 times. No, that doesn't happen. I'm sorry. You don't just go visit China 30 times for a fun trip with your kids. That's not true.
Bard, Bard, you sound, Bard. Okay, I got it. You actually sound, I thought you were a pretty smart dude. I would never think that you are the type that would fall for the conspiracy theories that are fed to you. And I must say that I'm genuinely, I'll always give you your voice here, but I'm genuinely disappointed because those of us who follow politics and understand how the right wing works and how they turn people like you, they really mess up your minds, right? It's concerning because it causes you to vote against your own interests. But notice I did give you your time to point out what you wanted to point out. So thank you for calling, but I'm concerned about your state of mind. You have no, you're done. I'm concerned about your state of mind, my brother Bard. Thank you very much. You have a wonderful day. Before I go to the other callers, I will always give all people that give me the honor of listening to the show a chance to be on here. But by the same token, when I am doing this program, I am leasing the air that belongs to every single American citizen. These airwaves are not mine. These airwaves belong to all of you. And we cannot allow our airwaves to be used to pass on knowing misinformation. So there are times that you will see me do what I just did with Brad there, because the good thing about it is I make sure to be researched and I make sure to know the material and I make sure to corroborate the material. Let me tell you that there are rating institutions that rate people who do what I am doing here as a host, as a blogger, as a journalist. And yours truly is rated as highly factual. I still leave the door open for everybody to have their say. But it is important. It is important for us at the same time we make other people have their say that we don't allow them to pollute the airwaves that you own to further misinform, ill-inform, disinform others. So there are times that must be done. All right, Brian, I'm running out of time now, and my line's just filled up again. So, Brian, you got 1 minute.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Mayo one team. You understand what that means?
Say that again.
Chinese.
Okay, what does it mean? What does it mean?
The Chinese. Have a good day. Yeah, Bart is correct. You should watch the fall of Minneapolis. And he's a liar.
Okay, I don't have to watch it fall of. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Oh yeah, thank you for letting me talk. Okay, he has been to China 15 times. Okay, and he lied about being in Hong Kong during the Tiananmen Square massacres. Now, what would have happened if JD was the Manchurian candidate? What would he have done if he's been to China 15 times? The left-wing media would have went crazy for the Manchurian candidate. We're not polluting the airwaves. We're giving you a different way of thinking. Do you understand this?
Absolutely so. Thank you very much, Brian. And let me just tell you that I don't have to read up on Minneapolis. I've been to Minneapolis several times. Not only have I been to Minneapolis, I can see the beauty that the city is. And not only that, but the culture of the people, all the people in Minneapolis. The caricature that YouTube video has made out of Minneapolis is just that, a caricature. Brian, again, I'm going to tell you the same thing. I can't let you use the airwaves to lie about what Minnesota has really become. It's in the data. Thank you, brother. I got to go to Jeff. Come on in, brother Jeff.
Oh, how are you?
I'm fine. Talk to me, my brother. 1 minute.
Well, I'm kind of disappointed in something that Johnny brought up. That I listen to both sides of all the arguments, and I decipher what I believe is true. And Johnny sounds like he's so far to the left that he's crazy. I mean, and he's on your station, other stations. What does he do during the day? All day long, just do that. Now, I'm going to leave that alone for right now. But what Bart and Brian said, Minneapolis is a disaster over there. The policies that governor put in there, I just don't know. I mean, I see it all the time on the internet that he let that city burn, and then
you see, Jeff. I've been to Minneapolis prior to and after the riots that were actually understandably what happened. But let me tell you something. The fact that the fallacy that somehow Minneapolis was burning throughout the city or Portland is burning throughout the city is factually wrong, incorrect, and actually a lie. The statement that Minneapolis or Minnesota is in dire straits is also a lie. We have data, sir. A YouTube video doesn't change what data is. A YouTube video allows you to fool yourself and spew misinformation. Jeff, I understand a lot of what my brothers on the right generally see on the videos are things that are made to mislead them. I am hoping with my program and also allowing the conversation with those on the right as well for you to say, let me go ahead and expand my horizon to see if what these people did with these YouTube videos were nothing more than propaganda. I'm telling you as a fact, they're propaganda. My rating, hold on. You go to fact check my website and go fact check the website from whence that video that you are talking about came from, and you learn something, and then come back to the program. But fact check my website and fact check that website, then come back to me. Thank you, Jeff. I got to go to Patrick. Come on in, Patrick. 1 minute.
One minute heard. I always find it interesting when somebody is too far to the left. I like to ask them, are they too interested in the comments? Are they too interested in people's health? Are they too interested in people's welfare? Are they too interested in infrastructure? Are they too interested in education? Are they too interested
Exactly. Exactly.
What is too far to the left? That's not why I call it, but stuff like that just makes me so upset. When there's so many people so far to the right, they think everybody's too far to the left. But the reason why I call it is states' rights. States' rights were reconsidered by federal law because they weren't working.
Right.
It's been a while since I've read it, but I believe that there was one state that had a bird that was a part of an attraction, and then another neighboring state was poisoning them all, trying to hold on to crops. And one state was crashing the other state's economy. And that's why we decided to have federal laws.
There you go. Patrick, you nailed it. Patrick, that is enough to nail it, but I got to go to Mike because I got 30 seconds. Thank you, Patrick. Talk to me at 3 o'clock, man. Come on in, Mike. Real quick, you got 30 seconds.
My concern is that once again, Israel might be pulling us, or in a way, they've already pulled us into a war in the Middle East. At what point does the United States take charge of their own foreign policy? Right now, it seems like Netanyahu is dictating what the U.S. does.
Look, Mike, I got to go, but I agree with what you just said. Right now, Netanyahu is dictating our Israeli policy. No doubt about that. Thank you, Mike, for pointing that out. We can talk about that another day, but I got to go to the studio. Studio, come on in, brothers and sisters. Brothers.
Oh, nothing for me. Well, nothing from me this morning. Another lively show. And Jack, do you have anything?
No.
Jack says no. He doesn't have anything.
Oh, wow. Let me tell you guys, again, we didn't touch anything that I prepared for. I had a couple of videos I wanted to show you, one with Tim Walz and one with Donald Trump hawking stuff and quite a bit more. But again, your commentary is much more important to me, especially since you can go offline and look at these videos and all of that. So if you go to all of that video and stuff is found at politicsdoneright.com/newsletter. Again, that is politicsdoneright.com/newsletter. I want to thank all my listeners, all my callers, love all my listeners, all my callers. And yes, my right wingers, I love you too. Because we are all one country. Anyway, I got to get out of here. My name is Egberto Willies. This is Politics Done Right. And you know how I end this baby. I am what? Out! Support for this show, Politics Done Right, comes from politicsdoneright.com, publishers of How to Make America Utopia, Take Away the Economy from Those Who Rigged It. As I See It, Class Warfare, The Only Resort to Right-Wing Doom. It's Worth It, How to Talk to Your Right-Wing Relatives, Friends, and Neighbors. And other books written by Egberto Willies.
Welcome to Politics Done Right. I am your host, Egberto Willies.